Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yokoji Paul, a student of Uganda Management Institute, pursuing a postgraduate diploma in project planning and management. Today, I'm going to introduce to you a topic of my coursework that is from the course unit of project procurement management. And this topic is how can a project procurement actions be designed and implemented to reduce exposure to the COVID-19 crisis and its effect. Of course, the COVID-19, all of us have known how it has affected procurement and how businesses have closed down due to the lockdown, and a lot of effect have been has interrupted actual procurement. But these could be the modalities that I am going to discuss together with you. I would want to discuss together with you about what is a pandemic itself. Pandemic is an outbreak of diseases that occurs over a wide geographical area and affects an exceptionally a high proportion of population. For example, we look at the influenza in 2009 and coronaviruses today, though others of course refers to pandemic as defined by the population immunity, and also they look at the virology of course disease severity. The World Health Organizations have also so far referred to define the COVID-19 or coronavirus as a large family of viruses that causes illness, ranging from what we call the common cold to more severe diseases. Of course, scientists have defined this by bringing it to the severe the severe acute respiratory syndrome that's considered as the SARS, and the Middle East, the respiratory syndrome, that these two viruses are the one being combined to become what we call the coronavirus or the COVID-19 today, as referred by the World Organization. These same scientists have also referred to coronavirus as a zoonotic because it is being moved or transmitted from animals to human beings. So, as the case was discovered in Wuhan, scientists still believe that this COVID-19 has been as an effect or as the impact or as a result of animals, viruses being transmitted to the people, which is affecting globally today. I would define procurement according to the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2003, which defined procurement as the acquisition by purchases, by rental, by lease, by hire purchase, by license, by tenancy and franchise, and also other contractual means of any type of work, services, and supplies by any combination. Um, I would now go to define or to be able to discuss with you how procurement today can be able to adapt or can be able to develop modalities so that it can be able to work normally. I would say procurement should go digital. Going digital because it's user friendly and it's a safe means for procurement during the COVID-19, as all of us may know, as the social distance measure. uh, Going online, procurement processes don't only lower barriers to entry for small businesses, and also include, of course, including the minority or even women-owned businesses to access what we call opportunities, but of course to safeguard also the virus from spreading. So therefore, I would think moving away from what we call the opaque and the time-intensive processes that makes it easier for government to move fast too. Also, to replenish what we call the vendor pool, and also the local government could look into smaller businesses, and many of whom are seeking to redirect what we call the user operations to meet the demands of the crisis. So, however, I would really think that if you have a digital end-to-end system that are managing the whole processes, that is of course providing transparency for all, and you will be able to touch all of the goals that are critical in all emergencies and also in every situations. Like today, we can be able to use what we call the Zoom for conferences. We can be able to use WhatsApp even for conferences. We can even use the Microsoft Team to be able to conference with any other business person or within even our office for the operations, and you can be able to purchase goods and services through such kind of systems. You can even be able to discuss lengthy. We can also put people first, developing a refreshed digitally driven procurement and model operations models, and of course new ways of working with the what we call the internal customers, and also developing what we call the supply ecosystem and external partners. Procurement nowadays have evolved really so fast within this the COVID-19. It has been forced to become more connected with its ecosystem of suppliers and external partners. Now you can look at internal customers at the same time. A major culture shift in communications and also a ways of working is also underway. Now you look at the challenging traditionally views about how procurement executes common what we call common sources to pay activities and government practices, but successful organizations are now using the time to be able to maximize both the internal and external impact, showcasing of course an underway commitment to collective well-being of their companies. In fact, I would say that procurement has been changing so very much at the COVID-19, and the procurement leaders can be able to adapt some of these few ways to be able to see that they can be able to continue working, operating normally despite of the COVID-19. They can even mobilize support structure for employees, like while providing suppliers and also extended network with similar access to resources that can in vulnerable communities. This is jigging. This can jig work predominates, and we can also look at what we call checking regularly on the physical, the mental, and the emotional health of any other person, or of course the core staffs within the organization or the workforce that you have, especially those are more vulnerable communities or in the houses. Of course, this gig work predominates. That's what I said before. And of course, when you repurpose and reskill the technical sourcing workers to collaborate all with the stakeholders, that of course you can be able to design a new remediations, and then you can also be able to look at product development, even looking at services that are being given, the services level, looking at the fulfillment models. This alone can be able to keep you producing as doing a procurement system moving very well, and yet you can be able to earn in your business. I could also discuss unlocking the funds intelligence. It's a little bit like the double down on responsible interventions to minimize unnecessary expenditure and preserve, of course, cash for the future. You find revenues now, and it's a little bit very difficult. Profit maximization now is becoming something which is not easy to achieve. So the demand itself has gone down, and you have your products being produced, you cannot be able to get this sold, you cannot even be able to earn. Now companies are becoming a little bit more depressed. So what we can be able to do now is that looking at this crisis, companies should be able to develop modalities that can be able to look at how they can be able to get more funds by saving the funds that they already have, and they plan for the future. They can even be using that for 12 months planning, and this, by doing so, they can be able to achieve the primary goals in the next 12 months. But because you cannot be able to continue spending or purchasing or producing while you cannot have more returns back. So what do? They need to optimize working capital and liquidity by while digitalizing prioritized interactions with suppliers, looking at of course an invoice and of course payment processes. They must also embrace zero-based mindset in managing all the categories of the third-party spend, and starting with what is great story spend. Also maximizing employee productivity by arguably, of course, looking at the capacity and of with advanced technology. You can replace it with advanced technology and applied intelligence instead of having people in your house. They are not working for the company and you cannot produce. You can also control and monitor results through effective partnership, finances, and technology functions. I would say procurement can also secure the supply base. Like, how do you do this? You can manage and mitigate supply uncertainty with supplies of small size and medium or even the large. COVID-19 has, of course, taught us a lot of lessons. Like executives today, they have learned quite a lot of lessons looking at the viability of their product and continuity of the plans. Many people have put a lot of contingency plans for their organizations or for their companies, especially countries that businesses that are in 3 or 4 countries. Many businesses were not able to have a digital platform to be able to monitor these businesses, but some of them actually auditors or most clients, business owners will go to check from one side of the business to the other, which has become a little bit very difficult with the lockdown. So what should they be able to do? Procurement leaders need to play a central role in snoring up and strengthening these companies, because most of them have become bankrupt. Most of them are even shutting down because they don't have money. They cannot even be able to control their companies. The small size companies are there, but they are more dependent on cash flows, which may not be easy. So what should they do? They should identify alternative sources of supply, um, um, and consider the shift from, of course, the local supplies, where previously they were dealing with international companies, but now you can shift from the international to the local because you cannot have access to the goods for the international industries. So you can be able to produce locally, which is more viable and at the same time more secure. So you cannot always go and buy goods from the different sites. You can now buy within locally. Procurement can also should scale and engage with what we call the tier 1 and the tier 2 suppliers to understand the risks. You work together to be able to establish or the pitfall, and then you look at what are the liquidity challenges that can be able to. Procurement is a process that you can be able to do within. Now you look at the businesses which are down, and you can be able to do what you can be able to achieve so that everything moves normally for them and also for you yourself. You must ensure and automate and expand retrofit, like looking at the risk framework. This is so necessary so that you can be able to define, this is a high risk, this is a low risk, this is where to go, this is not where to be. So you can also build the financial and the social safety nets for struggling partners through a shared access programs, and also looking at what we call the creative engagement together. With this that I have discussed, this would be very important for procurement to continue, much as the industries and the businesses are still producing within both national, locally. I can be able to do a procurement process, or I can be able to do procurement, or can be able to make sure that organizations still operate. Therefore, despite of these challenges that everything seems static, businesses have gone down because they are not producing. They have turned, moving from the line of businesses into sanitizers. This is another thing. Procurement can still be able to access some of those goods by looking at the industries that have turned away from one line to the other, and then you can be able to establish contact locally, and very much depend on them. This will be able to help you. Thank you.